The Department of Justice's recent release of Epstein-related files has sparked widespread outrage, particularly over the heavy redactions and the withholding of thousands of additional documents. Epstein's victims feel the partial disclosure falls far short of the full transparency promised by law. Among them is Marina Lacerda, one of the youngest known victims. Targeted by Epstein at just 14 years old, Lacerda has emerged as a powerful voice demanding accountability.
It started at the age of 14 and it ended in the age of 17 and a half, I'd say. And I did not think they were getting abused. I thought, maybe Epstein was having, he always mentioned stuff about Victoria's Secret and, him having students. And I really thought it was just meetings that he was having with these young girls. And being young, I didn't know how old they were. And unfortunately, there were many, many girls that walked in through those doors. I must have seen at least over 100 girls just walking in and out of there. Well, my early days in New York were, in the beginning when I first moved to New York and when I was 8 years old, things were very different than what it was when I was in Brazil. Within about 2 to 3 months when I moved to New York, my stepfather started to sexually abuse me, and that sexual abuse endured until I was 12 years old. And then right after, when I was 14, I met Jeffrey Epstein. My mother did not know the beginning that my stepfather was abusing me. She did, however, found out when I was about 10 or 10 and a half. But with complications of being an immigrant and being scared financial wise, being alone and a woman in, New York, she never was, she never protected me and never went to the police, but somebody else did help me. And we did go to the police, and my stepfather was arrested when I was 12 years old. There were a lot of struggles. And I think in the beginning I was juggling between, working some, regular jobs. But what people sometimes misunderstand is that when you're an immigrant and you come from another country and you don't have a social security in America, you do not get paid what you're supposed to get paid. Not only that, I was 12 years old, 13 years old, 14, 15, 16, working at these places where they did not pay me correctly. And this is how I ended up in Jeffrey Epstein's hand at 14. When I first met Jeffrey Epstein was through a Jane Doe who we cannot name. She is from Brazil as well, and everybody that lived in Astoria, Queens, and New York knew that I was going through this very hard time. And I think it was very easy for her to bring me to Jeffrey Epstein's house. And when I did go there, it was something that she explained to me in the beginning that it was something else, and then it ended up being something completely different. And he groomed me even more. I was in a very vulnerable state, and it ended up being really bad in the end. So that day that I went there, as being a young child at the time, it just seemed all very wow when you walk in. And first, when you reach to the door, you see this beautiful, huge door. It's a mansion in Manhattan, which, being 12 at the time, I didn't even know there were mansions that big in Manhattan. Walking through, this huge door, and ringing, the girl rang the doorbell. The maid approached the door, opened up the door for us. And when we walked in, I was so amazed and so wowed with how big and wealthy looking the house was. And we waited in the office, waiting room is what I like to say, and in the left-hand side of the house when you walk in. And on the right-hand side, later on, I found out it was his camera room where he had all his videotaping going on throughout the house. And when we waited in the waiting room, I was so amazed by how many pictures, how many celebrities, how many politicians he had on his, bureau with all these, elite people. And at the time, being so young and being an immigrant, I did not know who everybody was. And the maid came back to get us, and we went to the elevator. And when we went up to the third floor, it opened up to the doors of a hallway which led into a massage room. And in that massage room, it was completely dark, blackout shades. I mean, there was no windows because they were blacked out. And on the roof, I'm sorry, on the ceiling of this massage room, they had these clouds as kind of to ease in and to make you comfortable. And in this room, he had a huge he had a huge bureau of all these lotions and, massage oils. And when we walked in, he asked for a massage, which I knew that was what I was going there for. And he asked me to do certain things that I was not expected to do. And those things were made me feel very uncomfortable. However, being in a situation where I was and being abused in the past, it made me very, very scared. I was not only sexually abused by my stepfather, it also became physical. And I got very scared at the time, and I ended up being manipulated into doing stuff that I didn't want to do. And it progressed into something very, very big at the time, very slowly, but it progressed something to be, rape at the end. In the beginning, it was just her and I. And I would say about a year and a half later, yes, I had encountered with Ghislaine Maxwell. We had a one-time encounter, and that is from what I remember. I have to say, I think I might have been the youngest one to know that I was young. I don't know personally anybody else younger than me. I'm pretty sure there was, but I did not get to meet them. When he first met me, he was very kind, he was very polite. I did not think that it was going to progress to a point where he made sure that he owned everybody, including the government, including the president, including the banks. It was something in the beginning that myself, I thought he was very kind. And then it became very quickly where I was owned by Jeffrey Epstein. And if we did not abide to his rules, there were certain, repercussions that we knew we were going to face. And he made sure that he would let us know about that. So, myself, he never told me he was going to introduce myself to any of his friends, but he did talk to a lot of high profile people, Hollywood stars, politicians. And when he used to get massages, when I was there, he used to talk to them, a lot of them, and I will not name them, and he used to put us on the phone with them as well, and brag that he was getting a massage by a nice young girl. And he would brag, and he would put us on the phone with them, and he would say, "Hey, how are you?" And I'm like, "I'm good, we're here with Jeffrey." And that was basically it. But I never I got to meet a few people, but I've never been abused by any of them, so I can't say any of that for myself. It's not that I was able to pull out of it. Jeffrey Epstein was very upset when at the time, he seen that I was no longer a young, vulnerable girl, and I could no longer put on a act and, be his fun girl, is what he would like to say, or his good girl. And he quickly became very tired of me at that age. And my friends who also used to go there were that age, and it was just no longer for us. We were no longer fun for him. And he quickly, booted us out and said, "Hey, you guys are getting kind of old and you're no fun." And I just really don't, we're just not clicking anymore. And that's when our relationship ended. No, nobody knew. Family-wise, nobody knew. I think there was a lack of, protection and maybe motherhood from my mom. And I think when we were going through so many things, I don't think she really, I think her focus was more that my stepfather went to jail and we needed money. And I was bringing in a lot of money at the time, also having two jobs and seeing Jeffrey Epstein, which she did not know. And I don't think in her mind it crossed or even to ask where I was getting the money from. It was just more, here's the money, the bills are getting paid, everybody seems happy, my sister's taken care of, I'm taken care of, my mother's taken care of, the bills are taken care of, we have food. And I just think her motherly duties were not presented at the time. I have a lot to say of those 300,000 pages that are very repetitive when we start to go into it. And it is redacted heavily. It is a slap not only in our faces, the survivors, but also in the public's eyes. The whole world has been waiting for today. And I'm sorry, for yesterday, right? December 19th. And, when these files came out and everybody's digging through them, everyone's like, what is going on here? There is nothing to see here. And then all the other distractions that President Trump did, he put his name in the Kennedy Center. He's bombing other places. It is too much things going on for us to worry about where his name is going, what he's doing to other countries, which is completely unfair to us and to the public. It is very sad to say all the survivors are very disappointed. We are very angry. We're full of anxiety. We're full of emotions. We've been waiting for this day to come. And not only does he release files that already have been released, but he releases files fully redacted, protecting the elite, powerful men who are his friends, including himself. It is said and it is proven that his pictures were on Jeffrey Epstein's desk. And now, when we go back to look at those pictures, those files are missing completely. It is very, it is what I like to say, a circus show at this point. And it is something that President Trump and the DOJ has created. And we are going to find a way to end that, because as survivors, we will continue to fight not only for ourselves, but for this generation and the next generation to protect them. You know, it's hard to say. It's really hard to say. We might we might have been hit the tip of the iceberg, but we hope that the next batch of files that come out, because we're always hopeful, and some of these files, like the important information that came out from Annie Farmer, which she has been saying for years, from Maria Farmer, they have gone to the FBI in 1996. She has been going on live television telling everybody this. Nobody has believed her. And today or yesterday, people are so surprised by this. And we're like, wait a minute, did you think the survivor was making this serious accusation and not being honest about it? And if you didn't think she was honest about it, why didn't anybody investigate this sooner? Did we have to let the DOJ come out with this and then everybody's like so surprised about it? So at least some good things came out from this. And I'm glad to say that my survivor sister today is so proud and so happy that this has come to light. But it is also very, very another slap in the face, another move that, the DOJ and the President Trump has disrespected us to not believe us for, especially her who has been saying this and has vocalized this for a very long time. So, we are happy at the same time, but we are very disappointed. We are very angry with these files, and we will continue to fight. Nobody will stop us. Here in America, it is gone viral with that situation. He can try, DOJ, Pan Bondi, we don't know who is doing it. They can try to cover it up, but we know, and Instagram, TikTok, it is everywhere. People have caught the pictures. They have it on their, on their saved photos, and there's nothing they can do now. And we know by the emails that there is a lot of people involved that he could try to hide, but it is not going to happen. We are going to bring this to light, and it is up to the public also to believe this. These pictures were there. They were there. They were taken away from the archives, and now it has disappeared, but we have saved them, and we will continue to post them on the internet, and it will continue to go viral. We have been going through, myself, for the past 2 days, I've been trying really hard to go through all these files and trying to put in some keywords. And we're very disappointed to say the least is all we asked was to redact our names, and that was not done. The DOJ, the justice system has failed us once again here. And they have, disrespected all the victims that were leaked. And then not to redact the names that they were supposed to redact is another slap on the face. So we ask for the DOJ and whoever's in charge of this, because we no longer know who's in charge of this, because we think President Trump is in charge of this, but we know he's not redacting this. Somebody's doing it for him. And then we think Pam Bondi is doing this, but we know somebody else is doing this. And we think Kash Patel is doing this, but then we know somebody's under him. So we ask whoever's in charge of this, please do your job right. Please look at us not as grown women, adult women, but look at us when we were children and we went through this. This is something very serious. We have these files out there with unredacted victims' names. It is absurd. They need to redact our names and they need to unredact these powerful elite men who will continue to be a predator if we don't stop them. I have to say, we don't care about anything about this political game and this political battleground that he has created. In the beginning, we were upset and we were like, oh my God, this became a Democratic Party, a Republican Party. And now in the end, being around both parties, they both have come together. And it is not no longer a political battleground. He can say that it is a Democratic hoax, and he can say that we are a hoax, and he can say whatever he wants. But in the end of the day, I and we as survivors have been around both parties. It is no longer a political battleground. They've come together. We've seen the women Democratic and Republican caucus come together. What is something that we do not see when we see the House committee? They're always arguing, right? Like if you watch them, they're constantly going back and forth. This is the first time that history that these women have come together in one room and have been wanting to work together against this. And it is not only because of our abuse today, it is to save all the women who are going through abuse and who have gone through past abuse. This is why this was such an important movement. And of course it is that we want to get the files out there, but we want to make change for the future.